of boxing opening up for South Africans, we're here in London to discover what makes British boxing tick. We've spoken to all the key players, including the Secretary of the British Boxing Board of Control, television commentators, leading promoters, and we've discovered that there's an undeclared war of words between two editors of London boxing publications. Keep watching.
En op die plaaslike front gaan ons die geskiedenis van die onbekende held, die skermmaat na. Ons het ook 'n insetsel oor 'n jong Kaapse bokser wat baie mense beskou as die volgende Charlie Weir. Bly dus gerus by ons ingeskakel. Kom ons sluit nou eerstens weer by Bert Blewett in Londen aan.
This is the land where boxing was reborn nearly 300 years ago, where the art of self-defense became a respectable sport and attracted even royal patronage. But while London has always been the mecca of British boxing and was once the headquarters of the famous National Sporting Club, the backbone of boxing in Britain is still the Small Hall Show. With me in London here today is Reg Guttridge, the #1 boxing television commentator in Britain, and a man who has just been ranked by a local boxing publication as one of the 10 most important men in British boxing. Welcome to World of Boxing, Reg.
Thank you very much. I'd like to know who the other 9 are before I feel flattered about this, I have to say. Nice to see you, and as you know, I've covered boxing quite a bit really in South Africa, both for newspapers and for television, and I think I've told you before, my father trained Ben Ford, who was the British heavyweight champion in the 30s, and I was a schoolboy and I remember him very well. So I've always had kind of affinity. You
so
know,
you've
George Angelos and Tony Lombards and the Tawil family and so forth.
Well, you've got the good track record, Reg, which means that I can ask you, how important is the Small Hall Show to British boxing?
Well, it's a conveyor belt, Bert, isn't it? I mean, it always has been the only thing that can produce good fighters, and times are changing. I mean, there was a time, let's say, Terry Downs fought Dick Tiger, who both went on to become world champions at Little Shoreditch Town Hall, which is only a left hook from here. And you need those, and they're still going on in England, by the way, but they've been fading a bit. We still have more boxers registered than we've had in many years, 617, I think it was, something. But now television is playing a bigger part, and they go to bigger shows, and it is declining in some aspects.
Several British boxers have been beaten in recent months. What effect is this going to have on the game in England?
Well, you know, we've had these troughs over the years, as you well know. I mean, it goes right back to Oxfordshire's swordsman called James Figg, wasn't it? And up and down. It is a bad time at the moment. Nigel Benn lifted it a little bit by winning this, well, sardine championship, to be fair, the WBO, but he did it in a good fight and beat a decent fighter. And I hope that the British Boxing Board of Control at some time might recognise the WBO just for Nigel Benn's sake. But there's no reason why he couldn't go on to win something else. But we do have a world flyweight champion. Northern Ireland is still part of us as far as we're concerned.
Who would that be?
Dave McCauley.
Of course.
The reigning flyweight champion.
Yes. Back in the 50s, a great many South African boxers fought here in London, all over England. Do you think they'd be welcome back again?
Well, obviously you get the demos, don't you? But they're not very big. I mean, they've only really been in London with Brian Mitchell, who certainly didn't deserve it. And then McAteeny's been up on Teesside, you know, twice, and performed up there. So I wouldn't have thought there's any problem there. If they're good enough, they'll be welcome here.
Well, Reg, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you here in London.
Thank you. By the way, before you go, Bert, Chetty Coetzee, he had a bad accident. How is he?
That's true. He's making a very good recovery.
Oh, good.
I'm glad to say.
I saw him fight Mike Dokes in the States, and he was a real ambassador out there. That's why I wanted him to do well. After he'd won, I remember saying to him in the dressing room, "Where are you going from here, Chetty?" And he said, "To Romania." And I said, "Romania? What do you want to go there for?" He said, "No, man, I'm going to Romania."
To find out what small hall boxing in Britain is all about, we took our cameras to the York Hall in Bethnal Green, which is situated in the East End of London. British promoter, surprised to see you promoting small hall tournaments.
Well, you know, without the small shows, you don't get the big shows. I think we have a saying, we're from great trees, from little acorns grow. This is York Hall, Bethnal Green. This is really the breeding ground for professional fighters in England as far as London and South East is concerned. And, you know, these kids are fighting on home territories, giving them the experience before they go on to great things. Most of the big British stars started here in one way or another. I'm sure tonight we'll see a few more stars of the future.
How many small shows would you say you do in a season?
Well, you know, I probably do just over 50 shows a year, and of those, I'd have to say probably 30 of them are small shows, and 6 are mega shows, and the other dozen or so are your top quality title fights.
On tonight's bill, have you got anybody in particular that we should be watching for?
You know, there's a lot of good fighters. Young Bradley Stone just had a draw in the first fight. He's an up-and-coming youngster. The top of the bill is between 2 old war horses. You know, I'm not saying they're not prospects, but they're going to make a cracking fight. It's a type of fight that keeps boxing alive, you know. Not everyone's in the first division in football or in boxing. And you need all the divisions to keep the sport alive.
Yes. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
These small hall shows seem to go down very well in Britain.
Yes, they do. They're very popular, and they're the breeding ground of the champions.
I notice you have 2-minute rounds, something we don't have in South Africa.
Yes, well, that's a matter for debate sometimes. There's a school of thought that says it's 3-minute rounds are the rounds that are right for professionals. But we get a lot of boys turning professional with very little amateur experience. They're novices, and I think, and I agree with the license holders that want 2-minute rounds for them.
For how long would they box 2-minute rounds? Is there a limit?
Well, there isn't a limit, no. And some of the old stages box 2-minute rounds. But I would have thought that a boy that's going to make it should very quickly be on to 3-minute rounds.
How many small shows would you say you have in a year in England?
Well, we have in total nearly 290 shows in Britain in the course of a year. We have dinner shows, we have major shows, but I would think at least 150, 60 of them or more are rather like this, public small hall shows.
Thank you very much, John.
Pleasure.
Die onbekende held van boks is sonder twyfel die skermmaat. Sonder goeie skermoefening sou dit bykans onmoontlik gewees het vir boksers om hulle volledig en goed voor te berei vir 'n geveg. Nogtans bly die skermmaats gesiglose en naamlose persone van wie 'n mens selde hoor. Alhoewel, daar is sekere gevalle waar jy tog van hierdie manne te hore kom. Kort gelede het Greg Page 'n wêreldopskudding veroorsaak toe hy Mike Tyson in Tokio tydens 'n skermoefening platgeslaan. Ander skermmaats het dit ook al reg gekry om publisiteit te kry, maar net as hulle 'n opskudding veroorsaak.
Jersey Joe Walcott first made a name for himself in 1936 while sparring with Joe Louis, who was training for his first fight with Max Schmeling. Walcott made Louis angry by striking him with several right hands, a foretaste of what was to come in the Schmeling fight, and was promptly fired as a sparring partner. Walcott was made to wait 11 years before he got title shots at Louis in 1947 and 1948, and another 4 years were to pass before he became the heavyweight champion of the world.
Louis het George Nicholson verkies as sy skermmaat, 'n goeie swaargewig wat sy eie boksloopbaan opgegee het om 'n beroepsskermmaat te word. Toe Nicholson die eerste keer in 1937 teen Louis begin skerm het, is hy die mooi som van $25 per dag betaal. Toe hulle na 10 jaar die laaste keer teen mekaar skerm, was dit na meer as 1000 rondes.
Our own Robbie Williams looked like following a similar path when he spent about 18 months traveling the world as a sparring partner without ever climbing into the ring to fight. Robbie explains why.
I sparred with a lot of international boxers who came out here. I even went and sparred with our own Harry Coetzee when he was overseas. And I feel that boxers need a lot of sparring, but then it's got to be the quality sparring. If they cannot get it, then they must have a lot of interaction sparring in the gymnasium, but they should have a trainer who's behind them to push them into giving better of themselves in the sparring ring. Sparring, I feel, is very, very important in boxing.
skerm het omtrent 200 jaar gelede bekend geword toe John Jackson die akademie in Old Bond Straat, Londen geopen het. Ander van sy bekendste lede was die hertog van York en Clarence en Lord Bryan, wat homself as 'n bokser beskou het. Deur die jare is heelwat bekende mense deur die kruit nader getrek, insluitende Rudolf Valentino, die bekende rolprentster van die stil silverdoek. Valentino het gereeld teen Jack Dempsey geskerm toe Dempsey die swaargewig kampioen van die wêreld was.
It was the Americans who first made the training camp a special place and sparring partners all well-paid employees. Rocky Marciano often spent 3 or 4 months training for a fight, and it was because of these lengthy periods away from his family that Marciano finally decided to hang up his gloves in April 1956.
Om te kan skerm moet jy van 'n spesiale tegniek gebruik maak, omdat jy meeste van die tyd volgens 'n ander styl as jou eie moet boks. En die ergste wat 'n skermmaat kan doen, is om die bokser onkant te vang en dan te slaan. Nou wonder ek net, hoe belangrik is hierdie gesiglose skermmaat? Glo ons, hulle moet maar net daar wees.
An import coming to fight in South Africa. Now he must get sparring partners here in South Africa. Now, he must pay the guys. I mean, he can't just spar. If that is the case, he must bring his own sparring partners from America, whatever, here in South Africa. He can't use the local boys because he must pay them something. Because you may never know what happens in sparring. The boys get damaged in the sparring.
Ek is gelukkig, jy weet, ek is lank in die ding in en ek het goeie skermmaats vir my boksers, jy weet. Maar dit is baie belangrik om die regte uit te kry. En dan ook vandag is dit so moeilik in Suid-Afrika. Want ons het so baie boksers wat nie bekend is nie, wat miskien beter is as die kerels wat op die ranglys is. So jou bokser het 'n harder geveg as hy ou beklei wat nie op die ranglys is nie, as wat hy miskien nommer 3 of nommer 2 boks.
Well, I think sparring is the most important part of the makeup of any boxer's fight. You can have just hit the bag or shadow box, and sparring is the most important part of your makeup to fight. And I derive a lot of benefit from my boxers, from my sparring partners. And such a your timing in, your stamina, right, you know, your combinations, and sparring partner is very essential to any boxer before a fight.
When Paul Ferreira of Australia came to Cape Town to fight Arnold Taylor in 1974, there were no sparring partners. And I had to appeal in the press, in the Cape Town press, for sparring partners. And 2 or 3 came up. Not many were very suitable, but one chap was very game. And Paul Ferreira started to really land a few good punches on him. And I said to Ferreira, if you hit this guy too hard, he won't come back tomorrow night. And we've got no other sparring partner, so you better pull up on him. And he said, I've got to hit him a bit hard because he's a hell of a good fighter. And I didn't know who he was. And he came the next night and the following night, and he gave Paul Ferreira some very good workouts. And it was only later that I found out it was Garth Puller, the jockey, who was a surprisingly good fighter. Very tough and very game too.
Well, sparring, you know, you get your sharpness, you get your rhythm, you know, you get your eye in. It's like, you know, when you're training, you're preparing for the fight. So basically when you choose sparring, you must choose a sparring partner that's kind of guy that you're going to find. So you can get your eye in the movements, and you work on your different movements, you know, there.
Boxing is a sport of challenges, not only inside the ring, but outside as well. And here in London, there is an undeclared war of words between 2 boxing publications. The newest in the world, which is Boxing Weekly, and the oldest in the world, which is Boxing News, and which has been around for almost 80 years. It must have taken a lot of courage to start a weekly publication in opposition to Boxing News, which has been around 70-odd years.
Well, not really, because we don't really see it as competition. The immediate aim was basically to appeal to the 8 million viewers who actually watched Tyson Bruno. Boxing News is a trade paper, and it's people that are actually in the boxing trade and really staunch, die-hard fans who actually buy it. Whereas we aim towards people who possibly may not even have seen Boxing News, but are interested in boxing.
The concept used for Boxing Weekly as a tabloid, a colour tabloid, is a lot different from anything else in boxing. How did it originate?
Basically, it was to avoid confusion. We didn't want to be associated with Boxing News in that way. Boxing News is an A4 format, and has been so since it started 77 years ago. We wanted something bigger, so we could use better use of pictures, more colour, just an entirely different format, basically.
What sort of success have you had with Boxing Weekly?
Encouraging. On the figures we got back from the first 5 or 6 issues, sales have well exceeded Boxing News.
Are you trying to get success in the international market for Boxing Weekly?
That's the eventual aim. We hope to start small, basically win over this country, win over a whole new set of boxing fans, and then go international. We already have been encouraged by the response from America, for instance. We've got a lot of subscriptions from America. So, yeah, that is the eventual aim.
There appears to be a very strong competition between Boxing Weekly and Boxing News. Boxing News is 80 years old. Are you concerned about the competition from Boxing Weekly?
Well, I wasn't aware we had any competition from Boxing Weekly. Our sales haven't dropped by one solitary copy. We're just in a different planet to them. Their attempt to be a colourful tabloid format aiming at a very young readership. We're the solid professional trade magazine, which has got international standing over a period now of 81 years. We're not concerned by this sort of opposition at all.
Is there any truth in the rumour that Boxing News refused to accept advertising from Boxing Monthly and Boxing Weekly?
What happened was that Boxing Monthly originally approached us with a view to working together. We initially didn't commit ourselves, but we weren't against the idea. But then when we thought about it, we suspected that what they were in fact doing was going to use the monthly as a platform to build from which to launch a weekly rival. And on those grounds we said no, we don't want to know. And as events transpired, we were absolutely right. They did use the monthly as a launch pad for the weekly. And furthermore, they staffed it by approaching quite improperly and unprofessionally, in my view, virtually every one of my contributors and even some of my full-time staff.
Boxing News increased its pages in recent months. Was this done as a direct result of the competition from Boxing Weekly?
That's not true. We increased our pages before the arrival of Boxing Weekly. We increased to 28 pages some 3 months before Boxing Weekly ever appeared. The Weekly have gone the other way. They've cut their pages from 20 pages to 16, which tells its own story of who's winning the battle.
Over the years, South Africans have become intrepid travellers, and guess who we bumped into while shopping in London's fashionable Carnaby Street?
You're wondering why I'm wearing sunglasses in London? I believe my future's so bright, that's why I'm wearing shades. I'm in London to connect with who I believe the top boxing promoter, not only in London but in Europe, Mr. Barry Hearn, Barney Eastwood. I've connected with Louis Spada. I've connected with Manuel Stewart in Detroit. I'm connecting with the Orient. I think the future for us is brighter than ever. We're going worldwide.
Many South Africans have a tendency to underrate Brian Mitchell, the WBA junior lightweight champion. But here in Britain, Mitchell is highly regarded as a very good champion. Jim McDonnell, who challenged Mitchell unsuccessfully for the WBA title in 1988 and later went on to fight Azuma Nelson for the WBC title, explained why during a break in his TV commentary for Screen Sport.
You know, I wish the talk could turn to reality. It's a dream of mine for a rematch with Brian Mitchell. It's my first professional defeat. I felt going into the fight I could win the title. After the experience I've gained, I've got a lot of respect for Mitchell. He's a great fighter. He's proved it by defending his title 10 times now. But I'm sure that if we could get a rematch on, it'd be a fight that everyone would like to come and see. And it's something that really appealed to me.
How would you compare Mitchell with Azuma Nelson?
Brian Mitchell and Azuma Nelson is a fight I'd pay a lot of money to watch. You've got two tremendous fighters. It'd be very difficult to pick a winner. Azuma Nelson's a bigger puncher. Brian Mitchell's got an answer to everyone's everyone's ammunition. He's a good all-rounder, Brian Mitchell. I've gone on record to say before, he doesn't do nothing exceptional, but he does everything well. Azuma is more of a blasting puncher. His main shot is his left hook, and that'd be a tremendous contest, but I wouldn't like to pick a winner.
Against the background of the sweeping political changes taking place in South Africa, we asked American boxing agent and matchmaker Robert Mittelman what US perceptions were of South African boxing today. We spoke to Mr. Mittelman in Manchester, which is better known for its soccer team.
Well, the people in America are hopefully optimistic that things in South Africa will come full circle, or it'll be one man, one vote, like America. And I'm old enough to remember when America was not a very equal country also, and it took 30 years for everything to really change around. But the government is going in the right direction. The people feel it's going in the right direction. The people in boxing are boxing people, and the people in boxing themselves really don't want to keep the South African fighters out of the mainstream. Why should they? They're fighters. How can you discriminate them against South African black fighters? You do that, you're saying, well, your government's not fair to you, so we won't be fair to you. And then how can you discriminate against a white fighter? He didn't choose to be where he's born. He may not be a prejudiced kid. Boxing is integrated in South Africa, and therefore the world must recognize South African fighters. But it's good what President de Klerk is doing now. It's bringing things around, and I think all the rating organizations will start to recognize South African fighters very soon.
They call him the Walrus, but Cedric Kushner doesn't mind. Not only was the South African-born American promoter largely responsible for steering Welcome Nkita to his RBF Junior Featherweight title, he has just scooped two very important RBF awards. Kushner has been named Promoter of the Year and also been given the coveted Tony Gennaro Award for his services to boxing, both awards being made by the International Boxing Federation.
Hy is gebore in Renfrew naby Glasgow en praat nog steeds met so 'n Skotse aksentie, maar is Suid-Afrikaans soos biltong en braaivleis. Baie glo hy gaan 'n volgende Charlie Weir wees, maar alhoewel hy die aggressie van Weir het en sy vegtersinstink, verskil hulle style heelwat. Hy's 'n hotklou en het 'n baie sterker ken as Weir. In sy geveg teen die Amerikaanse weltergewig Felix Dubreuil is Murray se vermoë om 'n hou te kan absorbeer tot die uiterste beproef. En hoewel Dubreuil Murray met 'n paar goeie houe bygekom het, het dit nie veel indruk op Gary gemaak nie. Dit was egter 'n ander storie toe Murray besluit het om te slaan met wat hy in sy arsenaal het. Die Amerikaan het soos 'n os neergeslaan en glad nie beweeg terwyl hy uitgetel is nie. Baie mense is egter bekommerd oor Murray se swak verdediging en ons het aan afrigter Jackie Bryce gevra wat hy daaromtrent gaan doen.
You know, Gary's always been an upright fighter, since amateur days. And he's now realized that, in the professional game, you've got to catch the blows. And the last 2-3 months, he's been catching the blows fine. So, where the critics are concerned, where I find it being constructive criticism is, we've worked on it, we've worked hard on it the last 2-3 months. And, he's catching the blows very well now.
Gary Murray is een van die toegewykste boksers waaroor Suid-Afrika beskik. Maar hy het ook dinge waarvan hy hou en nie hou nie. Hy hou daarvan om as beroepsbokser te veg, want hy glo hy word beter behandel as in die amateurgeleedere. Maar hy hou nie van nou pas in die kleredrag nie. Sy gunsteling is 'n lekker los baggy kort langbroek. Sy stadige polsslag van tussen 38 en 42 is 'n bewys van sy fiksheid. En alhoewel hy 'n baie besige jong man is, hou hy daarvan om op die maat van musiek te ontspan. As amateur was hy 'n springbok, maar wat is sy doel as beroepsbokser?
I would like to keep improving. I've been criticised for quite a poor defence, and I must say it's constructive criticism. I have got quite a poor defence. I've been working on it the last few months, and I'm improving in that department. I'd like to improve in the punches that I throw as well, the combinations and that, and fight more overseas opponents, help me improve my boxing. Well, I think any boxer's ultimate goal is to eventually be world rated or to get a chance at a world title. And through Mike Siegel, hopefully I will get a chance one of these days.
In Middlesbrough, England, the IBF Intercontinental Cruiserweight title was up for grabs when Caesar McAtini took on British banger Dave Garside in a fight for the vacant championship. And after a shaky first round, during which he was knocked to the floor, McAtini climbed off the canvas to stage a remarkable fight back, twice dropping Garside en route to scoring a unanimous points victory.
In Seoul, Korea, het die WBA veergewigkampioen Antonio Esparragosa min moeite ondervind om sy titel die 7de keer te behou toe hy Chan Mok Park maklik met punte oor 12 rondes geklop het in 'n vervelige geveg. Park het soos 'n dief gehardloop en geen poging aangewend om te staan en te veg nie. Mense om die kruit was van mening dat dit die swakste geveg nog in Korea was en het Park 'n lafaard as gevolg van sy negatiewe taktiek genoem.
In spring, South African junior heavyweight champion Freddie Rafferty put his title on the line against Howard Papezi, and after surviving a shaky 7th round, during which he was dropped and his face bloodied, he lost the unanimous points decision. Rafferty's work rate, which has never been considered very good, was better than it has been of late, but the challenger still threw too many punches for the champion and ran out a clear winner.
In Bangkok, Thailand, het die plaaslike gunsteling Sochitalada sy WBC vliegewigtitel by die Weermagstadion suksesvol verdedig teen Carlos Salazar van Argentinië. Danksy 'n plaaslike whiskybord was die toegang gratis en 20.000 ondersteuners het hulle help gaan aanpop. Ongelukkig was dit 'n geveg sonder verbeelding en Chitalada was 'n maklike oorwinnaar oor sy hotklou teenstander in 12 rondes.
In Rome, Italy, South Africa's welcome Nkita retained his IBF junior featherweight title by stopping Ramon Cruz of Puerto Rico in the 7th round. It was Nkita's first defense of the title. The South African was in good form, although guilty of punching wild in the early rounds. However, once he found his rhythm and range, Nkita battered Cruz mercilessly, and 3 superb left hooks ended the fight in the 7th round.
Ons vertrou u hierdie internasionale uitsending van World of Boxing baie geniet. U kan gerus vir ons skryf, vir ons laat weet wat dink u van die program en ook vir ons 'n voorstel of 2 in die pos gooi. Hier is die adres. World of Boxing, posbus 8323 en op smeer 0046. Nou ja, ons bied ook graag verskoning aan ons kykers en dit is na aanleiding van 'n stelling wat ons verlede maand gemaak het dat ons verwag dat boks miskien so teen die jaar 2000 'n sitkamersport gaan word. Deur net na die Nkita Cruz gevegte gekyk het ons besef dis klaar reeds 'n sitkamersport. Ons vertrou u lekker gekyk. Tot volgende maand, tot ziens.